can't get off the island, they got no money, they live beyond the moneyed economy. Because the natives of Fuga are isolated. They've been under the thumb of these armed guards for generations. And I'm telling you, I was very, very disturbed. It disturbed my mind to see what they had to live with. The first commitment that I made to the people of Fuga Island was that I will go back to Canada, thinking it'd be just like snapping your fingers, because in Canada, Canada always helps people overseas. We will bring support, medical and educational support to the island. Well, it took years of uphill to finally have that happen.
When it comes to international development, medical and educational support are only a beginning. The people of Fuga face a far more challenging issue: ownership of the very land under their feet. But they are not alone as they face this difficult problem. The Slocan Valley in the interior of British Columbia is a long way from a small island in the Philippines. For Carrie Garnier and his Filipina wife, Violetta, concern for and action on international development began with a simple desire on Carrie's part to see the island where Violetta grew up.
Hi, Cody. Hi, Asia.
Little did they know that what started as a holiday trip would turn into a life's commitment.
Carrie wanted to come here in the island, in Fuga Island, and I refused to come here because I know that how life it is here, how difficult. I've been here since every year when I was a child, right? So when we came here, there's still guard.
The guards had been on the island since the days of President Ferdinand Marcos. They were hired by private land developers, people with grand schemes for the future of the island. The schemes had little to do with the wishes of the people, and everything to do with profit. They treated the people harshly.
When my father was still alive, he kept on telling things about these murders that was happening in Fuga. If you happen to kill a cow, you'll be in trouble with the security guards. They'll just take you somewhere else and you just disappeared.
Illiterate, poor, and isolated, Fuga is one of the Babuyan Islands, located off the extreme northern tip of Luzon, main island of the Philippines. Most recently, the island was owned by a Chinese Filipino, Tan Yu, who had ambitious plans to create an international destination.
Well, Mr. Tan Yu's vision of the island would have it be a tax-free port, a second Hong Kong, a paradise, 17 golf courses, 12,000 five-star hotel rooms, seaport, airport, and the world's biggest gambling casinos. There's no water. There's barely enough water for the 2,000 natives that are there. So how could you have so many people on an island that is scarce of water?
Tan Yu died in 2002. His guards are now gone from the island, but the future of his development plan remains uncertain. What is certain is that Fuga's strategic location has lured visionaries, dreamers, and schemers for centuries. In the 1600s, Dominicans built a mission on Fuga as their bastion of domination of the northern Philippines. They, in turn, were overwhelmed by Muslims with similar hopes for control. Carrie, an artist and photographer, made several trips to Fuga with Violetta in the 1990s and fell in love with the island and its beleaguered people. He put everything he had into supporting them, even mortgaging the family home. But others were fearful of the guards and their guns, and Carrie had trouble getting aid organizations involved.
A couple of these charitable organizations, they made a deal with me. They said, I'll tell you what, if you can get the blessings of the Philippine government and guarantee some kind of security protection, if you can pull that off, then come back and see me. Providence. I think it's Providence, but I was able to do that.
Carrie made a video which found its way into the Canadian home of a Filipina, Eda Pangilinan. Eda is the cousin of Gloria Arroyo, President of the Philippines.
It was like a big answer to prayer. We were invited to the presidential palace by the president, specifically to focus on Fuga and to see if we could solve some of these problems. She appointed these people to work with us.
Nice.
And I'm telling you, I've never seen so much happen so fast. Asia Rita, this is Raul. This attorney who was appointed to look at this articulated a plan called Kapatiran para sa Fuga.
Kapatiran para sa Fuga means Brotherhood for Fuga. It's a 3-phase plan to provide education, medical aid, and land titling for the people of the island.
You people helped us get over a very, very difficult hurdle, getting access to the island. The president parted the waters for us to get to Fuga Island. And as a result of all that and the action plan that you articulated, Rule, our group got very busy.
That was in 2002. Back in the Slocan Valley, Friends of Fuga put forward a multi-pronged plan, including a school twinning project between Cody and Asia Rita's school and the students of Fuga. There's also a plan to raise money for scholarships for students from the island.
You don't have the rights to anything except basically the clothes on your back.
In the spring of 2004, Carrie and Violetta returned to the Philippines. They planned to work with the people of Fuga on many fronts and to introduce their children to the island and to their Filipino cousins for the first time.
Well, we brought our children this time because I find it safe this time to come to the island because there's no more guards for one reason. And I would like to see where their mother, me as their mother, where she came from. Oh, they changed this one. It's not.
En route to the island, the family stopped in Claveria, near Violetta's childhood home.
Oh, here comes the other one.
Asia Rita and Cody met their Filipino relatives.
Oh my!
And discovered a new way of life. As the last stop before heading offshore to Fuga, they stocked up with all the food, water, and supplies they would need on the impoverished island. Violetta's first stop on the island was a visit to her uncle Lazaro, 75 years old and a resident of Fuga all his life. Lazaro told her about the changes that have been taking place on the island since she and Carrie first visited. He told her how, in the past, the guards would beat the residents and steal their buffaloes and horses. He also thanked Violetta for the support she and Carrie have helped to bring to the island.
Like we started here in 1996 and they've been happy because we promised them that we'll come back and support them as much as we can. And there's big changes now, like the scholarship and now the medical clinic, they're happy about that.
Inayon mo dito, ikasjay mo.
There's other doctors from the Philippines now that come here and do their medical mission. It never happened before. And they're planning to come back again and bringing more doctors and dentists. That's what they're planning.
Okay?
It was quite heartwarming to arrive here at Nagilian and see a big banner. And these are some organizations that Violetta and I have been in contact with in the past few years, and they've come to Fuga, they've assessed the situation, and they're committed for the long road ahead. So Friends of Fuga, our organization, is right there with them, and we're going to be doing everything that we can.
Carrie had worked hard to bring an effective team to the island. Their mission was to look at what the next steps in helping the islanders might be.
Renel de la Cruz is here to work with the Native people on his doctoral thesis. He's an anthropologist and he's doing a doctoral thesis on a shared vision, the community-based shared vision for the island.
Carrie's been corresponding with Renel for over 2 years about the problems facing the island.
It's an advantage on my part since I'm an Ilocano we're able to get some substantial information regarding the island.
Pero tuwing nanaginip kayo.
Accompanying Ronel is Lee Coliano. Lee is a community organizer who is helping Ronel with his research.
Before everything else, you should own this land before anything else.
Also joining the team was Florente Solmoran, or Zaf, a journalist writing articles on the island for the Manila Times.
I learned Fuga Island through Kerry because it's my first time to go here in Fuga. So I know the language because these people, the people living here are also Ilocanos, just like me. So I feel what they feel.
While Carrie and Violetta worked with Ronel, Lee, and Zaf, the children were gaining insights into a life very different from their own in Canada.
People work very hard because they have different houses and they have to get everything from a different place. They don't just get it from a store like we do. You can't just drive there in cars. They don't even have cars here. They have to walk.
Lee, Coliano, Ronel Dela Cruz, and Zaf went from village to village. They interviewed the elders of the villages and they documented the consensus of what are the most pressing issues for the people of the island.
Okay, for the first day, I have found out that most of the people here are very much suspicious of the outsiders. And I can understand that pretty well because the so-called developers, which will in turn suppress their rights, are also the outsiders. So for me to be able to get into their world, I must assure them that, hey, I'm not one of those guys before. I'm here to listen to you, to care for you, and maybe to help you.
Lola was born here. She's lived here all of her life, and she's 67 years old. And she's suffering this goiter for 40 years. And I asked, what are your dreams? And she said, the land. We want to own the land. According to her, that's our source of our life, source of our identity. Second is to have a high school building in this island. There are stories that mothers sending their children to the mainland, and in the middle, caught in a typhoon, were capsized and all perished.
On that sad day, the students embarked for the voyage to the main island, but turned back because of the typhoon. The guards refused to let them land, shooting at them, forcing them back to sea. Over 20 of them drowned. Today, many students never get to high school.
There's a lot of children here who supposed to go to school and learn, but they don't have classrooms.
There are only two buildings, two classrooms for the entire elementary system. Grade 1 and grade 2 right there. Now, the grade 3, 4, and 5, and 6 building is somewhere there in another village. So much so that during rainy season, when the heavy rain pours and the water is rushing, they have to cancel the classes because that would endanger the students coming here or going there.
While the people of Fuga hope for health care and a high school, they recognize that they are better off than they used to be. Since the death of Tan Yu, the armed guards are gone. Now the people feel free to build houses and expand their use of the land.
Before those dark years, they were not allowed to expand everything that they want to expand. For example, their farmlands, their huts, and everything. But now they're free. I mean, literally free, but not actually free because until now they have not their land title yet. Home sweet home.
Today, the people of Fuga are free to sell their crops and fish to the market on the main island. a small money economy is growing. But commerce and rising expectations bring their own problems.
This practice is a slash and burn, so they will plant tobacco, corn, and mango beans.
Here we have everything wild. We have wild tomato, wild everything, wild politicians, wild developers. And at times we have wild farmers. They just simply cut and slash and burn all these trees. After 3 years, they go and transfer again. So what will happen to the mother nature?
It's so emotional. I mean, when I got to learn the situation of the people, these houses, the lot, they don't own the lot. They don't own any here. Like for example, the farm lots that they were tilling, they didn't own that. How come? But in fact, they live here for decades.
The desire to own the land under their feet is the greatest concern of the villagers. Without it, they have no sense of security. Just recently, there were rumors that everyone would be forcibly removed from the island. Their councillors feel helpless as they attempt to find a solution.
He said that he wants to own a piece of the land here in Fuga Island.
Everybody that we've interviewed, the number one issue is they want to deal with land titling. They were afraid to even raise the subject before, but now it seems that it's unanimous all across the board.
The incursion of outside development is coming, so as long as they do not have titles, they will still live in insecurity.
Why don't the government give this land to the Fuga people? This is an isolated island, and the president should come here and see for herself the situation. I was informed that the mayor was here, Mayor of Aparri, because there's a meeting 2 o'clock. So the people should ask the mayor, can we own the land? Can you help us process our own titles to own our lands here in Fuga?
The mayor and other politicians from the mainland town that controls Fuga come to the island to campaign. They repeat promises that have seldom been kept in the past. The mayor and his wife are aligned with the moneyed interests that have ruled the island for many years, the interests which stand in the path of land reform.
The short term, we will try to look at the immediate things that the people of Fuga need. And for the long term, this will be maybe 5 years plan like that. We try to look around. There are improvements for the people of Fuga.
There were plans before to make this island a paradise, a real paradise, just like any other country, just like Hong Kong, Singapore. But then, due to economic conditions, those plans did not push through. So we have seen that plan, and it's really beautiful because the people they will be placed in one area. There will be schools. There will be a place, commercial district, just like Hong Kong.
But I've been told that there's land reform legislation here in the Philippines which says that if people have lived on their land for 25 years or more, that it becomes their land.
So we do not know if that is applicable here, but I don't think so because as of today, land reform law has not been applicable. It has not been applied in this island.
The Land Titling Act simply says that for those who live in the area for more than 25 years, they are the priority to own the land. But that is not the case. You know, once you have the power, you have the money, you have the power, and you have the influence. And these people here, the natives of Fuga, don't have money, therefore don't have influence, therefore don't have power. So they're prone to be victimized by those who have more in the heads, less in the heart.
Despite their newfound freedom, the people remain in limbo, at the mercy of powerful forces who, Carey discovered, sent lawyers to the island many years ago to twist the law to ensure their continued legal hold over it.
They were there on a mission to find a loophole to make Fuga Island and the natives exempt from the land reform program by declaring the island a cattle ranch and a tourist destination. I sort of lost it for a minute there in the face of this attorney Planta, and I said, "Attorney, you mean to tell me that cows and tourists who have never arrived have more right than these Ilocano families who have been living and farming on that island for generations? I think it's disgusting."
The land reform legislation loopholes are still in force, making Fuga exempt from the law and an exception in this nation of islands.
This document was drafted by...
Determined to find a way to help the people re-establish their claims to the land, Carrie encouraged Ronell to research the land titles of the wealthy owners. While Ronell was able to locate the documents, it's still a long road ahead.
Let's face the fact, land titling is not just as easy as 1 + 1 equals 2.
What do you think the biggest challenge is going to be in the land titling process?
Well, you expect the least, the resistance from the owners. When they have money, they have influence, they will not just simply yield to our own purpose. When land titling may take years, if the community gets a better education, even without us, they can act on their own. And I think that should be our main focus while we wait for the land titling.
The plan that Lee Coliano has developed it's a 3-year community development plan. The first step is to choose a natural leader from each of the 6 villages. What they want to do is, first of all, give these 6 a training program. It'll be a professional orientation on community leadership, community organizing. Then, for 3 years, professional community organizers would be living right in the communities. The premium issue that will be in the focus of this 3-year community development program would be the land titling issue. I've looked at native issues for 20 years, and land titling is always the underlying issue. And I think it is on Fuga. And that nothing will ever change in a significant way until they do have land titles.
With an understanding of the task ahead and a plan of action forming, Carrie and Violetta begin to think of the future, while the children enjoy their last days with their Filipino cousins. As the time to leave nears, Violetta reaffirms her commitment to friends and relatives as she says goodbye.
Well, I really like doing this because it feels good when you help somebody. Like every time we come here, it feels good to help these people in this island because what I see in here, they really need help. But it's coming along, it's slowly coming along, and I'm glad that other Canadians coming along and help us. It's not just us anymore.
I feel really good about the last few days. The people here in all the villages are more open, more inclined to speak, whereas before they were afraid to say anything. They would say, it doesn't matter what we think, we have no rights. I'm really, really grateful to see the kind of people that came to Fuga Island on this trip and their commitments for the long road ahead.
I am obligated by virtue of my birth as a Filipino citizen. I feel obliged to help these Filipino people. They're my brothers, they're my sisters.
Home in Slocan, Asia Rita and Cody return to their school with a new sense of the Filipino side of their family. They share their experiences of a land far away with their classmates and begin working to develop the school twinning project.
Say hello, friends in Slocan.
But whatever happens, Carrie, Violetta and their children have found new allies in the battle to bring justice to Fuga. Their struggle continues. But now it is not just a struggle to find help for the people of Fuga, but a need to empower the people to help themselves, as their biggest fight remains ahead. A fight that Carrie is determined they will win.
I think the future is brighter than it's ever been for the people of Fuga Island. I'm an altruist. I believe that the greatest good is possible. And you have to think that. It has to start with what you think, because what you think leads to your actions. People of Fuga Island was that I will go back to Canada, thinking it'd be just like snapping your fingers, because in Canada, Canada always helps people overseas. We will bring support, medical and educational support to the island. Well, it took years of uphill to finally have that happen.
When it comes to international development, medical and educational support are only a beginning. The people of Fuga face a far more challenging issue: ownership of the very land under their feet. But they are not alone as they face this difficult problem. The Slocan Valley in the interior of British Columbia is a long way from a small island in the Philippines. For Carrie Garnier and his Filipina wife, Violeta, concern for and action on international development began with a simple desire on Carrie's part to see the island where Violeta grew up.
Hi, Cody. Hi, Asia.
Little did they know that what started as a holiday trip would turn into a life's commitment.
Carrie wanted.
Can't get off the island. They got no money. They live beyond the moneyed economy because the natives of Fuga are isolated. They've been under the thumb of these armed guards for generations. And I'm telling you, I was very, very disturbed. It disturbed my mind to see what they had to live with. The first commitment that I made to the
To come here in the island, in Fuga Island, and I refused to come here because I know that how life it is here, how difficult. I've been here since every year when I was a child, right? So when we came here, there's still guard.
The guards had been on the island since the days of President Ferdinand Marcos. They were hired by private land developers, people with grand schemes for the future of the island. The schemes had little to do with the wishes of the people and everything to do with profit. They treated the people harshly.
When my father was still alive, he kept on telling things about these murders that was happening in Fuga. If you happen to kill a cow, you'll be in trouble with the security guards. They'll just take you somewhere else and you just disappeared.
Illiterate, poor, and isolated, Fuga is one of the Babuyan Islands, located